It's a big day for the Prelude. And in fact, people are driving it, just not in America. It's happening in Japan. And I thank DL Nix for this comment. I'm like, I don't know what's going on in Japan, but there's Japanese YouTubers. Let's go ahead and look it up. He's driving it on a track. More than likely, it's where I was at in Utsunomiya, where Honda R&D is. Okay, they have lots of test tracks there. I drove their 0 Series EV there. It would have been nice if you had this Prelude available to drive. Now, before I get in this, I've only watched the first minute or so, and then we're going to try to thumb through, see what other exciting things we can find. I'm going to post this video and this YouTuber in the description. Now, the YouTube subtitles, right, it's in Japanese. YouTube subtitles here are actually pretty good translated to English. So we're going to have some fun with it. Before we get into this, if you watch my Civic Hybrid review and any other review of a Honda Hybrid with their 2-motor setup, they're good off the line. They accelerate like an electric car off the line. They are snappy, quick, and get to sit like the 0 to 60 on a Honda Civic Hybrid is like 6.4 seconds. It's quick for a hybrid of around 200 horsepower. But the problem is, and something I've always dogged on them for, and something that Toyota actually does better, is responsiveness. Once you're up to speed on a Toyota hybrid, you press the gas pedal down, it just goes. There's like no waiting around. Honda, their hybrid system is completely different than Toyota. And there's this huge delay when you're driving their hybrids. Now, if you go full throttle, let's say you're going 45 miles an hour, you go full throttle, pedal to the metal, gas all the way down, you're waiting. What are you waiting for? Well, the engine has to wake up if it's off, but if it's on, all right, it still has to wake up, build revs to provide enough power for the electrified system, all right, because it's pretty much fully electric motor driven, Honda's hybrids, until you're on the highway, and then it can clutch in the engine. That's all fixed now. Check this out. And we're going to break this down and talk about the excitement here. And this is something I was going to get my expectations extremely low for this new Prelude. Very, very low, because I didn't want to be disappointed by getting my hopes up. Well, now my hopes are up high. This is going to be the most fun to drive hybrid possibly ever. All right. The CRZ had a manual back in the day, but that thing I heard was a dog. Wasn't very good. Check this out. What's going on here? So there's a new S-Speed button. On the S-Speed, there wasn't, if we go to the press release, here's the button. There's nothing really mentioned. The S Plus Shift button, it's an innovative new drive mode that further enhances linear shift control to deliver maximum levels of driver engagement. But there wasn't any more information here, at least on our press site. Is there a global site? Of course, you guys know I have a bookmarked Honda's Global. I don't see anything in the Prelude on the press release, okay? So now we have an idea of this. Check this out. Engine speed increases and decreases when you press that button. Look at that. Look at those shifts. Now, he's not going fast. I mean, but look at those shifts. Look how fast they are. And the engine building like it's in a true gear. That's Honda innovation. That's Honda engineering. He's saying he can actually feel the shifts too. Now, I wasn't expecting this, obviously, because I've driven Honda hybrids, and they're, like I said, they're really laggy when you want that full throttle. It's been fixed now. He says when it's decelerating, you can use the paddle shifters here, and look at the downshifts. That's when he's braking. He's not even using the paddle shifter there, but you can use the paddle shifter. And there's a shift shock. You feel the vehicle move as it's quote unquote downshifting. He says it's like an NSX. And we're just going to fly through some of this, his walker. And obviously camouflage, right? We have the pop-out handles, which is no surprise. Now, this is something I mentioned. The new model has changed a little bit versus the model that was debuted, or should I say the concept that was debuted. So let me pull up the image. This is the image Honda provided today, and this is the same image that Honda UK showed that I'm aware of. And the light bar is gone. When I did my walk-arounds in Japan and in LA with this vehicle, there was a light bar here. So they might have just killed it off completely. Maybe it was too close to looking like the Toyota Crown in some markets. The Toyota Crown in our market has the light bar disabled. Pretty sure it's still in there if you watch my Crown nighttime review. But I think this looks better than having that cheesy light bar that goes across. So I'm okay with that. And it looks like the prototype this strut has, it looks like it's gone. All right, these wheel design's the same. Brembo brakes here. Isn't that funny? It looks like they blocked out Brembo, but you can still see the tiny Brembo. There's the new drive mode, S Plus function, which is going to make this drive like a super zippy automatic or semi-manual transmission, right, with paddle shifters. But it's extraordinarily responsive, seemingly, even with you're not using paddle shifters. There's a few different drive modes too. I'm trying to pull it up. Sport, GT, Comfort. I'm interested to try that all out. And you also have an individual mode. Looking at the back seat, this is the first time we've ever seen the interior of a Prelude. All right, so I want to kind of back out and see what we have going on. All right, well, there is some. It looks like the dash is still covered up here, but this is a Civic interior. This is based off the Civic. It should be the same Civic platform. Right? There shouldn't be any major differences. This looks different to me, right? If I remember right, doesn't the Civic, hold the phone. The Civic Hybrid in our market has the shifters. I'm looking at my own review that I did on the Civic Hybrid as a traditional shifter. So this is all going to be reworked on with push button, which I'm not a big fan of push button, especially in a sporty car. Now it's a prototype, but the fact that they unveiled a specific image right here makes me think that this is gospel. Again, it's still pre-production, but I think this is going to make it to production. I think the shifter's gone. All right, fully digital screen behind the steering wheel. Back seat. It's our first look at the back seat. It looks like this is cloth. Again, this is prototype where the front seats are leather. And they could even do that for production for all I care. Keep the cost down on this. In the middle, like just tiny seats back there. Little kids. He's taking a nap in there. Okay, he's driving it again. Here we go. The acceleration. Oh, man. Totally different. They fixed the only issue that I had with Honda hybrids is the lack of responsive. Now it's like instant response, and it's not a droney CVT. It's not, okay, pick maximum revs to build maximum power, right? And just hold, let's say, 5,500 RPM like a Toyota hybrid, and it says drones away. This is just pure perfection here. That hybrids are going to be fun to drive. Look at that. I mean, this is him doing the same video as he did earlier. God, can you imagine ringing the engine out, banging off the red limiter to an extent here in a hybrid? And look how responsive hitting that next gear is with the paddle shifters. It's more responsive than a true automatic, right? Well, it can be because it doesn't actually have physical gears to bang through. If you turn off the S mode, okay, and switch to sports mode, he said. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of how the Civic performs. The Civic will take a while, then start kind of simulating gears, but it's kind of soft. And there's not a big stepping of the gears. You could see what was doing in that mode. It was very similar to the Civic. And he has it set to 8 gears. So once you get into the S Plus mode here, the gears are fixed. So through software. So if you're going 40 miles an hour in 5th gear, it's always going to be the exact same RPM every single time. So it's predetermined. It's software defined gears. They don't have a moving goalpost, I guess you could say, with their parameters. He just said there that even by the sound and the speed you're going, you don't really need to look at what gear you're in. You can, over time, you'll get familiar with what gear you're in, assuming you drive in Sport Plus a lot, without having to look down. Okay. So the gears are going to be just like a true automatic gearbox with fixed ratios that are predictable and fun to go through. She just talked about the GT mode, and it's not nearly as loud. I would assume that they don't pump in as much volume compared to the more aggressive S mode. But the GT mode still will use the stepped gears and make it, he says, like, well, if I have the family in here, it's still fun, but it's not going to be overbearingly sporty for the passengers. And it didn't look like it would let you rev quite as high in the GT mode. But again, I would have to drive it to find out. I drove that exact portion of the road, and there's a hairpin turn right here. I drove that in the Honda 0 Series EV. So cool. So here he just said that the same programming and tuning from the NSX and the shift logic is programmed into the new Prelude's hybrid S Plus sportiness system. I don't even know what to call it, the S Plus tuning that they put into this. That's really exciting. So the Prelude's not going to have this next generation midsize. Now, we know they're using an E-axle in the back. And the E-axle is going to be the same E-axle seen in 0 Series EVs. In theory, they can mix and match. So we have this small diagram here of the closest thing. Now, we can see here, this is only front wheel drive. This is the small battery here with the shield. There's no rear motor here, just a muffler that you can see in the back. So we go back to here. This is the same battery with the same shield, seemingly, but now we have the addition of this really compact rear motor that can be used, like I said, in EVs as well. But this will be replacing the propeller shaft in every single Honda all-wheel drive vehicle. So the CR-V has a mechanical all-wheel drive right now. That's going to be replaced by an E-axle. Toyota does it like this, but Honda is going to be putting their own spice, their own flavor and identity into this E-axle and this new hybrid system. This is the new generation engine. Honda has talked about this. You see the little oil filter up front. Honda's talked about this, but this is the first time we're seeing this technology. It's a 1.5 liter. Now, we only see 2-liter hybrids in America. I would love to see a 1.5 liter make its way to the States, but it might have to be turboed. So let's see what we learn here. Installed, this is 1.5 liters installed in the, I think he said the Honda Freed and the Vezel. Again, we don't get those models. But there's going to be a 2-liter version that also has a 30% in thermal efficiency increase. So we're talking about a thermal efficiency of at least 40%. And the drive motor has been reduced 10% and the size of the drive motor by 25%. So things are getting smaller, more compact, more energy dense, more efficient. I hope we get news on North American hybrids, because those hybrids that were just demonstrated, those were specific for the Japanese market. Not the Preludes. That's different. That's a global model. But those hybrids that were just teased with the E-axle on the back, those are for really small vehicles. Like the midsize is probably the Vezel and the Freed, which we don't get. And we would consider them very small vehicles here stateside, some of the smallest we would see. But they also have hybrids for even smaller vehicles than that. What wasn't shown was the next generation hybrids that we will get in North America that are larger displacement. Are they going to be turbo hybrids? Who knows? We'll have to find out. Hopefully Honda's ready to spill the beans soon. Thank you guys for watching. I'm glad someone got to drive the Prelude, and I'm glad we got to enjoy a little bit of the unraveling of this sporty hybrid mystery. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.